whole problem with aliens. You just can't trust them. Occasionally you meet a nice one, but usually they turn out to be some kind of big lizard.
The Skraby Show starts now on 97.3 The Fan.
Hello and welcome to the Skraby Show for September 15th, 2025. Thank you so much for listening today. I'm going to be taking you up until the Monday Night Football game between the Chargers and the Raiders. And before Chris left, we both put together the genius revelation that tonight must be like Pirate Night or something, because you got the Pirates on MLB Network right now, losing to the Cubs 4-0. You got the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football, and then you got the Raiders later. So it's all a bunch of Pirates today in the sports world. But the Buccaneers 14-10, Bucky Irving just almost broke a touchdown run, but they are looking like they are driving down to score right now. So I'll update you as things go along. But I have a short amount of time to talk to everyone today, because I'm going to be sending it over to the Monday Night Football broadcast around 6:40. But we need to talk about the resurgence of Jackson Merrill and the resurgence of Fernando Tatis Jr. Because if you didn't think that they were going to turn it around and be the guys that we know they are, you were wrong. And I gotta tell you, I was questioning it for a little bit there. I was questioning it, especially with Jackson Merrill, with all the different injuries he's had this year. And let me take a step back for a second and say, I know that this last little stretch for Jackson Merrill is not going to predict the future, but he's looked much better than we have seen him look all season long. His swing looks better. His decision-making looks better. And I think that Jackson Merrill is, if he was to keep this rolling into the playoffs, he's a dangerous guy. You've seen him hit 3 home runs in the last 4 games, I believe. He's homered 4 times in the past 8 games. He has 8 extra base hits in that span. Now, Tatis has homered in 4 of the past 10 games. So right now, you got 2 of the guys at the top of the order, with Jackson hitting second yesterday because Luis Ariz was out. But I like that. I like that look of Jackson in the 2 spot, Fernando in the leadoff spot. Don't know how much we'll ever see that, but it definitely worked yesterday. And Jackson Merrill was quoted in the Kevin Acee newsletter as saying that he loves hitting behind Fernando, and he also really likes to watch his at-bats from up close, because now he's in the on-deck circle. So, I would like to keep those 2 together. As long as they're hitting like they are now, I would like to go Fernando and then Jackson. I'm not saying that you take Luis Ariz out of it. I'm saying you move him down a little bit. You got to move him down a little bit. And I don't know that they're going to do that, because it seems like when he's in there, he's going to hit second. And I've spent a lot of time on this show, the Skraby Show, talking about Luis Ariz and where he belongs in the lineup. And I kind of feel like it's all a big waste, because we're not going to see him hit anywhere else. But, I've been seeing more writers out there. I know Matt Snyder put this into his weekly power rankings, but he said having Luis Ariz hitting in the 2 spot right now is he didn't say losing games, but it's a liability. And I do agree with it. And again, for all the Luis Ariz people out there, I'm a Luis Ariz guy. I just want to see him little bit later in the lineup. I like having someone that is a contact guy at the bottom of the lineup, because then you can turn things over. If Luis Ariz can get on in the 9th spot, and then Fernando comes up and he can drive Luis Ariz in, or Jackson Merrill can drive Luis Ariz in, I like that. I like seeing that look. And I think that some people, maybe even within baseball, think that moving down in the lineup or batting at the bottom of the lineup is something. It's a bad thing. It means you're a bad player. But I don't think that at all. I really think that it would just lengthen the lineup even more that it's already been lengthened if you were to put Ariz at the 7, 8, 9 spot. Yesterday, you have O'Hearn hitting in the 7 spot. or 2 days ago you had him hitting in the 7th spot. But I want to see that. It's just probably not going to happen. Anyway, I didn't mean to go off on a Luis Ariz tangent, but Jackson Merrill in the last 12 games, his batting average isn't going to hop off the page at you, but he is hitting 244. His OPS over the last 12 games, 936. He has a slugging percentage of 644 in the last 12 games with 4 homers, 2 doubles, 2 triples, and 11 hits in that time. So that's the type of Jackson Merrill that we are used to seeing. And even his average, if this was last year's Jackson Merrill's average would be higher. But he's starting to find it. He had a really tough year with injuries. And I think that definitely hurt Jackson in the way of finding a rhythm this year and finding how he needs to be doing things in his second year, because it's not as easy to just recreate and repeat a first year. Paul Skeens, who won the National League Rookie of the Year last year and probably is going to win the National League Cy Young this year, he is making it look easy, but he's kind of a atypical guy. It would be really hard for Jackson Merrill to recreate what he did last year. It would be, but we saw it for the first part of the season. We saw Jackson Merrill be the guy that we thought, he was going to come into the season being, which was a maybe 20 to 25 home run guy and someone who hits around 280, 290, something like that. But it has not been that way for him this season. And in fact, there have been some at-bats this year where he has looked completely lost. And it's funny for a guy who has never played a Major League Baseball game to say, but it certainly looked like at points he was lost, and he somehow has found his way out of that. And I think that's something really good, or that's a good sign for Jackson Merrill, that he's had the year that he's had and he's staying with it. He keeps working at it and he keeps figuring it out. In the beginning of the year, when they first started in that big old long win streak that they started with, let's see, up until 15 games in, he was hitting 467 with a 1.259 OPS. He already had hit 3 home runs in those 15 games. So that was the Jackson Merrill that we thought we were going to get all year. Didn't work out that way. He got injured, but he's making his way back. And if there is a time for Jackson Merrill to find it, it is right now, as they have 2 weeks left in their season. That is wild to say, number one. But number two, if you're looking, this is exactly when you need the team to get hot. And Chris said it earlier on the show. The team that sometimes wins the World Series or goes to the World Series is the team that's getting hot at the right time. And I said this a couple weeks ago, and I had a couple friends telling me that I was doing mental gymnastics, trying to make myself feel better about how the Padres were going there for a little bit. Because I was thinking, hey, why not get the losing out of the way now? Hopefully it doesn't continue, but if you're going to lose games, lose them right now and finish on fire, which is what they're trending towards. Now, these next 3 games, it's going to be, I'm a little bit nervous about this week on the road for the Padres. And the reason I'm a little bit nervous is because the Mets always play the Padres well in New York. I know when they came here, the Mets were one of the hottest teams in baseball when they came here, and the Padres ended up sweeping them in 3 straight games. So, and it kind of broke the Mets at the time. But I think that this week, the White Sox are not a team that you can just roll over. The White Sox are a much improved team. Will Venable is the manager there now, and they have done some good things this year, and they have won some games recently. So, and I'm not just saying some games, I'm saying they've won a decent amount of games, and they've gotten better as the season goes along. So I don't want that to be some sort of trap series that we have talked about before, in football all the time. Oh, this is a trap game, meaning we're overlooking our opponent next in order to we're overlooking the next opponent in order to focus on a tougher opponent after that. But with the way that the Padres play their game, meaning going at it on a day-to-day basis, I don't know that they're going to get caught up in some sort of trap series, but I would think that these two teams, well, the Mets are trying to stay in the playoffs, but I would think that the White Sox are trying. These guys are playing for jobs next year. It's not going to be a series where they just go in and they just easily take care of business. This is not the Rockies. So that's why I'm a little nervous about going to play the White Sox at the end of the week, just because beware of the team that's already been eliminated, because they have nothing to lose. They always say, beware of the sick golfer is what I've heard many times, because the sick golfer doesn't care as much because they're sick, and so they play better because of that. Beware of the team that has been eliminated from playoff contention. Now, if we go back to the Fernando and Jackson tandem heating up September 2nd through September 14th, so again, 12 games, Fernando's hitting 271. He has an OPS of 854 over that time. He also has 4 home runs, but here is where the big difference in Fernando's game this year is. He has 5 walks in that 12-game span, and his on-base percentage is .333. His slugging is .521, and we were talking about the version of Fernando that we want to see, which is a Fernando that hits for a lot of power. I really like this Fernando that we're seeing this year, outside of some of the struggles that he's had most of the year and the power not being there. I know that he still has the power. We've seen it at points this year, so it's not like he just lost the ability to hit a baseball really, really, really far and hard. But Fernando, I like the patience that he's shown at the plate this year, because you don't walk as many times as he has this year and set a career high for number of walks in a season without being patient and without really, really trusting your eye and making sure you're not swinging at those pitches that we all know that he likes to swing at, which is the slider low and away. And when you see Fernando swinging at that slider on a consistent basis, low and away, you know that things aren't right. But when he's laying off that pitch, you know that that things are going well for him. He's seeing the ball well. And for the last little bit, Fernando has been turning it around slowly. I know the average isn't there, but I'm not too concerned with the average going into the playoffs, because if Fernando needs to hit a game-winning home run, or if he needs a game-winning hit, I feel very comfortable with Fernando in that spot. He's hitting .264 this season. He's got 22 home runs. He's already stolen 30 bases. He's back over 800 on the OPS for the season. So if that doesn't tell you that he's getting better and better and better, then maybe this will. In the last 7 games, he's hitting .308 with 2 homers, 4 RBIs, 3 walks, 3 stolen bases, and 7 runs. Again, we went through it earlier. He has, so far this season, Fernando Tatis Jr. has 20, his career high in walks was 62 in 2021. He has 86 walks this year. So he's already crushed that in his for his career. He's already made that the best year of his career in regards to walks. Now, of course, he's not going to hit 42 home runs this year, but if you're looking at his home run totals outside of that 42 home runs, he's right around there with 22. And stolen bases, 30, is something he's never done in his career before. And playing games, Fernando has been pretty, I'm not even going to say it. Everybody knows where I'm going with that, but he's played 146 games this year, which is 5 more than he played in 2023, which was his previous high. So Fernando, outside of him not really looking like Fernando for a lot of the year at the plate, he's still putting together a pretty decent season. Now, what would make this season even better is if he goes on a tear and goes into the playoffs and just is the Fernando that we love and the Fernando that we saw during the first couple games of the Padres Dodgers NLDS series last year. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Things are getting way better for Fernando. Things are getting way better for Jackson Merrill. Here's a quick note I want to talk about real quick before we go to break. Jeremiah Estrada got his 100th and 101st strikeouts yesterday, which ties him with the Astros' Brian Abreu for most among all MLB relief pitchers. Estrada has at least 2 strikeouts in 7 consecutive games, which is one off of Trevor Hoffman's Padres record. So there you go. You got some really big franchise stuff, franchise records that could go down with Jeremiah Estrada, with him 100 and 101st strikeouts. He struggled at times this year, but Jeremiah Estrada does one thing, and that's strike out batters. He does that really well. All right, this is the Skraby Show. I am Matt Skraby. Thank you for joining me. Again, taking you up to the kickoff between the Chargers and the Raiders on Monday Night Football. When we get back, I want to talk about something that we hit on earlier in the show, and that is Mike Shildt. And I want to kind of break down, why do some people dislike Mike Shildt? We'll talk about it when we get back here on 97.3 The Fan. shorter Skraby Show for today. Again, I'm going to be sending you off to, is it LA? No, it's Las Vegas. They're going to Las Vegas. The Raiders are at home. So I'm going to be sending you off to Las Vegas for the Raiders and the Chargers at 6:40. But until then, you have me. And you can watch me on YouTube if you would like. Just go to YouTube, search 97.3 The Fan, or you can go to youtube.com/@The Skraby Show. My last name, Skraby as in boy, Y. Tampa Bay just stopped Houston on the goal line, so they are at their own 1 yard line trying to work themselves out of the end zone. It was a fourth and goal. Back-to-back passes to Nico Collins. First, the third down pass was just out of the reach of Nico Collins. I think he may want that one back, but the fourth down play wasn't as easy or straightforward as the third down play. So Bucks winning 14-10 here in the fourth quarter, 10:45 to go. So I'll keep you up to date on that. Now, I'm going to talk about Mike Shildt here in just a second, but one of the craziest things that I've ever seen and ever heard is on Netflix right now, and that is the Charlie Sheen documentary. And I don't know how many people have seen this Charlie Sheen documentary, but again, it's on Netflix, and I've only watched the first part of it. There's two parts. Part one is an hour and a half or so, but I watched that, and it is very, very, very interesting. It's really interesting to hear about how he felt about himself during that time. And as someone who has had struggles with drugs and alcohol, I have not, I'm past that. I've not had a drink in nearly 9 years. December 5th, it will be 9 years. So it's very interesting for me to see how he did things. And I can't even imagine being in this guy's life. I can't even imagine having the money and the fame and all of that and just be on a tear like he was. And the whole thing with him going like winning and stuff like that hasn't even happened in the documentary yet. So I'm going to go home, and I'm going to probably, by the time we have the show tomorrow, I'll be done with the second part of the documentary. But that's all the crazy stuff where like he called into sports radio and he was doing interviews while he was doing drugs. Basically, it's crazy stuff, but it was really well done. And it has Charlie Sheen telling his story. And I believe he said in the beginning of it, he's 7 years sober now. So that's a good thing for everyone, really. Because if you see him in this documentary, you're like, ugh, that you should be dead, Charlie. And I know that he thinks that as well. Dominic said, just watched it. Quite interesting. And McKee says, watched it last night. Clinton said, I knew you were going to say Charlie Sheen as soon as you said crazy. That is true. Easy money. I'm so glad to have met you, Skraby. You're sharing your stories helped me so much. I appreciate that. But as I always tell Easy Money, you were the one who actually did the work. So be proud of yourself. But hey, it's just part of getting past these certain issues and addictions. I believe it's part of the job of the person on the other side to, keep sharing their stories so that other people can hear it and see it and realize that, hey, I can do this too. Just because I think I'm so bad, and I don't have any hope, doesn't mean you can't turn it around. And Charlie Sheen, honestly, is, he had some money and all that stuff, but he went down a really bad path. And I would think it would be way more difficult and daunting to think about coming back from his path than from other, paths to being a drunk and a drug addict. Anyway, didn't plan on going down that road, but Charlie Sheen documentary on Netflix. Okay, I'm going to read something about Mike Shildt first, and it has to do with stats. And then we're going to get into the conversation of why do some dislike Mike Shildt, Padres fans. And I don't even know if people actually dislike him or if they just don't like some of the answers he gives in press conferences after the game. But here is the note that we should pay attention to. and that is the Padres' next victory. So if they win tomorrow, that will give Mike Shildt more victories in back-to-back seasons than any Padres manager before him. He moved into a tie with Dick Williams yesterday, which was 1984 and 1985. When you really stop to think about that, it's like, what have we been complaining about the last couple years? This year, we've done a lot of complaining about Mike Shildt, and I understand why, but I don't think that we should be complaining as much as we are about Mike Shildt. Now, some of the decisions that Mike Shildt makes are ones that I don't agree with, like having Luis Ariz in the 2-hole, but I'm also not I'm not qualified to be a Major League Baseball manager. So I tend to, and this goes for all sports, I tend to err on the side of those guys know way more than I do, because they do. I can't be sitting at home being like, hey, it's so easy just to switch Ariz down to the 9th spot, put Jackson in the 2 spot, blah, 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 bada bing, bada boom. And so I get why we Monday morning quarterback managers and coaches after the fact. But if you think about it, Mike Shildt is one of the most successful managers in Padres history. And if he wins tomorrow, or the next win that the Padres have, he will be the guy to have the most victories in back-to-back seasons. And Chris said this earlier. Padres have had some pretty good managers in their time. Bruce Bochy, before he went to the Giants. Bruce Bochy never did this. Bud Black never did this. So there has to be some sort of recognition that the Padres are in a good spot because their manager, Mike Shildt, is winning games. And I do get some of the feedback and the heat that Mike Shildt takes, but I don't understand when a Padres fan, like wants him fired or just doesn't trust anything that he does. There are methods to his madness, I'm sure. Like, I'm not a big fan of seeing Mason McCoy come into the game late in the game because Mason McCoy is not that great at the plate. So I don't think his defense is better than what he could do at the plate if they need him. Like the other night, they pinch hit. I can't remember who actually was pinch hitting, but they pinch hit for Ryan O'Hearn. And I know that Ryan O'Hearn was like coming up 7th, or they put someone in Ryan O'Hearn's spot, and then that spot came up. And so it kind of backfired on him. But I think we have to be a little bit more sympathetic. Not sympathetic. We have to be a little bit more accepting of the fact that Mike Shildt is one of the best managers in Padres history. So I don't get why there's so much from some people, why they're so against Mike Shildt. Who do you want as the manager of this team? Because you know what? The Padres have chosen some pretty interesting managers here in the past. You had Andy Green, who was kind of an unknown guy before he got to become the manager of the Padres. Didn't work out. You have Jace Tingler. Didn't work out. Do you want guys like that? Because Mike Shildt actually has a pedigree, and I would rather follow a guy into the playoffs who's been there before than a manager who has not been there before, who does not have the experience that Mike Shildt does. Now, sometimes I do think Mike Shildt takes exception with certain things that I don't know. I shouldn't say that he shouldn't take exception to, but there are certain things that are talked about in the media, or the media asks questions, and there's I'm trying to say the right words here because words matter, number one. And number two, it's like Mike Shildt comes back at reporters for asking questions that I think are fair questions. And in the heat of the moment, I can understand someone being dismissive about something, but in the end, like those decisions are going to be second guessed by the fan base and maybe even some people within the organization. I have no idea if some people in the organization feel that way. I may even doubt that they feel that way. But I do think that Mike Shildt knows what he's doing. And I do think at certain times, but on the other side, I do think at certain times that he might be too, the word's not stubborn, but stuck in his ways on certain things. Luis Ariz, again, comes right to mind. But the way that he's used his bullpen this year has been pretty consistent. And it's really easy to come at a manager for making a bad decision when that bad decision ends up costing them the game. If they win the game, everybody's fine. If they don't win the game, then everybody's very, very upset about it. Clinton says, people just want to blast Shildt to be heard. It's an easy complaint on any MLB manager. I agree. I mean, there's not, I don't think there's many great managerial options out there. Like, look at what happened with in the NFL. Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator for the Lions the last couple of years. He stayed one extra year to be with the Lions because he didn't like what was out there in head coaches that were being hired for organizations. So he stayed. And now I get it. He's only through 2 games. Things aren't going well for him through 2 games. He's 0-2. And Ben Johnson, he may go 15-2 from here on out. I don't think it's going to happen. But he was the can't miss 100% right coaching hire for any team to hire him to be their head coach, because he is the guy behind the Lions offense and he is the guy who was the mastermind of all of that. And so he was the can't miss coach. We'll see what happens throughout the year, but there have been many can't miss coaches over the years that just have not worked out. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, just because someone might have a good track record coming in, or at least people are saying that they're ready to be a manager or they're the next great manager. I'll go back to the 49ers when they hired Mike Singletary. I think Mike Singletary, I thought he was going to be a great head coach. I really loved when the 49ers were able to bring him in. I thought, all right, he's a ex-player. He knows what he's doing. He's one of the greatest linebackers of all time. He is going to come in and he is going to take care of business as the head coach of the 49ers. Guess what? It didn't work that way at all. So in some regards, like when they hired Kyle Shanahan, I didn't mean to make this all about the 49ers, but I'm trying to compare. In some regards, when they hired Kyle Shanahan as the head coach of the 49ers, I was comfortable with that because he had so much experience leading into that. And so I understood that you're getting a guy who has no head coaching experience, but at the same time, you're getting a guy who has a ton of NFL experience. Now, if you were to fire Mike Shildt after this season, who are they bringing in? That's going to be better. The players love to play for him. It seems like all of the coaching staff is pretty tight, and there's not many. There's no this year. I feel like Mike Shildt runs a good clubhouse because there's not really, from what we've seen or heard, there's not really any issues within this clubhouse. Knock on wood. And I think the way that Mike Shildt goes to bat for his players, no pun intended, for his players, I think is why they love playing for him so much. Because Luis Ariz, maybe not doing as well as he has this year or in his career, but he has stuck with Luis Ariz, Mike Shildt has, and he has put his full weight behind Luis Ariz. So you got to think that what those moves that he's making and the way that he comes off to fans, those players in the clubhouse are loving that because he is taking the brunt of criticism for them. And I think that's what a good coach does. I think that's what a good manager does. All right. Comment from the chat. It isn't easy to wrangle in a bunch of all-star type players. You are not wrong about that. Not wrong. All right. Coming to the end of the show. Guess what? We have this.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
All right. Daily gripe. If you've never heard it before, Skraby Show always ends with the daily gripe. Some days I have good gripes. Some days I have bad gripes. Today, I think I have a good gripe. And it happened over the weekend. But I am, and it always occurs when I'm driving too, because I do a lot of driving to and from work and things like that. But one of the things that bothers me the most is when people don't have awareness about them. And I hate it. Hate it when people meander through a parking lot while you're trying to find a parking space. Over the weekend, there was, not many parking spaces where I was. And so I was trying to find one. And these two people get out of their car and they walked in the middle of the aisle and they walked really slow. And they even looked back like, hey, there's a car behind us. Normally, I move over to get out of the way so that people could drive on by. These people did not do that. They were taking their sweet time. And that bothers me. And that is my daily gripe, because be aware of your surroundings, please. Be aware. Next time, I was going to say something, but I'm on the radio. I shouldn't. I was going to say next time, maybe I'll hit the gas. But no, I'm not going to do that. Not going to do that. Next time I'm going to honk, though. Not a big fan. Not a big fan of people with no awareness. Not a big fan of people who do not care that there are other human beings in this world. All right. That's it for my short Skraby Show for today. Tomorrow we'll be back at 2 p.m. Bennewood start at 6 a.m. Padres embark on their final 2 weeks of the regular season. Try to lock up one of those playoff spots and go from there. Thanks everybody for sticking around today and listening. Thanks for listening to Gwen and Chris. Thanks for listening to all. I can't even speak. Thanks for listening to all of the shows here on 97.3 The Fan. If you ever want to go watch them, go to youtube.com and search 97.3 The Fan. You will find it. You will see all of our different shows, and you can watch everybody and see what everybody looks like if you haven't. All right, that's it for me. Monday Night Football coming up next. Chargers, Raiders, 97.3 The Fan. Good night.